What we're going to be doing today is animating in Stable Diffusion. So the first thing I need to get you to do is to set yourselves up for that. So if you haven't already, in this description to this video is a link to Automatic 111. And by the way, I actually found out about this this animation zoom script. I found out about the script from another creator called Common Sense Made Simple, and his link to his channel is also in the description to this video, as well as his link to his video where he pretty much goes over what we're doing here as well. But I'm going to jump into After Effects. I'm going to extend out a little bit on his tutorial. His tutorial did touch on as well. The reason why I'm mentioning him is that he did touch on as well that people seem to be taking his information and putting out videos that really say the same things as he's saying, but don't really add anything into the conversation. And that's the last thing I want to do. I'm definitely trying to add into the conversation when I do these videos. So go check out Common Sense Made Simple. Also go check out the Aitrepreneur and Nerdy Robot. The links to their channels are in the description to this video because I really want to spread the love and pass on as much follow-through traffic to their channels for giving us this information, because this is all about raising humanity up and increasing the overall intelligence of everybody by making sure that we all learn at the same speed, at the same level. So, okay, so enough of that. But, yeah, so I've got the link here, which is right here for the GitHub for Automatic 111. Copy the GitHub for Automatic 1111. Paste it into your browser, and that will bring you to this page. Now, then you can scroll down to the installation section here, and here you have a section that tells you everything you need to know about installing Automatic 1111 onto your local drive and running it without any problems. So as one important note is, if you don't have an Nvidia graphics processing unit, then this isn't going to work. You need the Nvidia GPU. It says it can use AMD GPUs, but I use the Nvidia. Always use Nvidia. They're a great brand. They make great graphics cards. They're always top of the line. I haven't got the latest, the 40 series, which I don't even know if they're rolling that out until 2023. But I'm definitely going to be upgrading my RTX 360 pretty soon, to at least to the 390 or 390 Ti, because it just has a much larger onboard video cache. It has 24 gigabytes. I think I'm running 12 gigabytes on my current, so it's twice the amount of GPU onboard memory, which means that it increases your VRAM. And this is all of what we're doing is really hungry when it comes to VRAM. So anyhow. So hopefully you will have gone through that process, probably not in the time that I've been babbling here, but go through this process to install Automatic 111111 onto your local drive so that you can run this locally. And then when you've done that, like I'm going to be using the Robo-Diffusion. So like you can also install the Robo-Diffusion checkpoint and merge that. And the last video I did was all about that. So you just copy the link for the checkpoint, which is on Hugging Face, and you paste that, and that will take you to the page. And just click on this download link here, and that will download Robo-Diffusion so you can install it. But what we're doing today is animating, so which is another script completely. So here is the script underneath animation script in my description. You'll find this script here. So copy that link, paste it into your web page. I've got it already up here. And you can see the script files are really just these 4 files here. So I saw that they literally, this is how new this all is. He's just, whoever's created this, I guess it's no user. Not sure. But whoever's created this literally dropped version 4 today. I mean, within the last hour of me starting to stream. So I'm going to download this and follow the process along with you anyhow. So If you go up to code, click download zip, and that will download animation main, this whole bunch of source code and the scripts into your downloads folder. Then go grab that from your downloads folder. So I'm going to go grab that now. This is my Automatic 111 folder. If I open that up, and I'm just going to paste the download for animation for Animator. This is the Animator scripts here. And if I just double click and bring that up, you can see the Animator there. And if I drag that into the web UI here, it's going to extract it. So here it is, extracted Animator main, but it's not going to, it's in the wrong place. So we want those scripts to be in the script folder. And it really, all I need is these 4 scripts for this to work. And it's the same for you. So once you've extracted Animator main, go into that folder and grab these 4 scripts. I've already installed these 3. So all I really need is this new version, but all you really need is this one. But I mean, if I was you, I'd copy them all and try them all out and learn. But basically, that file, the one I just selected, or all 4 of those, if we select all 4, they all get put into your scripts folder here. So you can see I've got the first 3 set up here, but I haven't got number 4. So if I'm just going to paste that in there, and I'm going to skip the files I already have, so it's just going to put version 4 in there. So that's what you need to do to install this animation zoom into your local version of Automatic 111 so that you can do this process. So once you're all installed into your local folders, then you can jump back into Stable Diffusion. So, and what you probably will have to do, I'd imagine, let's get back into Stable Diffusion. What you'll probably have to do is restart Stable Diffusion for it to load those scripts, but I've already installed them, so I don't have to reload them. But you won't find these scripts anywhere except for image to image, but if you click onto image to image and you scroll down, those scripts are in this little drop down menu here, and you can see the first 3. So I definitely have to restart Stable Diffusion for it to load version 4, but I'm not going to worry about that because I don't need version 4 to show you what I need to show you today. So yeah, so once you've installed all of that, you need a image to start animating with. And I'm really into these robots. I'm going to start with a robotic image, so I'm going to create a robot city. I want this to be horizontal. Actually, let's make a short. I might as well make a short to stick onto YouTube to advertise this. So I'm not sure what the best size for a YouTube short is. So we can actually just do a quick search, shorts best resolution, and see if we can optimize Stable Diffusion to produce that for us. So best resolution is 1080 by 1920. 1920 is a struggle for us with Stable Diffusion. So if we have those specs, that would probably be better for the software, and then just upscale it later on. And I can do another video on how to upscale using Stable Diffusion another time, but I'm just going to get my calculator up here really quickly. You probably don't need a calculator to work this out, but 1920 divided by 2 equals 960. So if we make sure that our height is 960 and 1080 divided by 2 is 540. But I can check my math. So 940, definitely 940 high, and 1080 divided by 2 equals, yep, 540. If I can't figure that out in my head, then, you know, what am I doing? So yeah, if we jump into Stable Diffusion now, I've made those quick calculations and set up our resolutions properly. So we want our height to be 540. It's probably not going to give us 540, so I'm going to go 576, and our width is 576, and our height is going to be 960. It will give us 960 for a height. So it's going to be a little bit wider than I need it, but that's okay because we can just crop it in post. So I'm going to create a zoom on a robot, but first I need a robot. So Now, if you've installed Robo-Diffusion, you can use this no user robot prompt to create a robot, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to stick to this mission of creating a animation in Stable Diffusion of for a short. So it's going to be vertical composition for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. It's going to be 15 to 60 seconds. We're going to stick to 15 seconds, I think, which is the minimum length that you really want your short to be. So now that I've created a cool robot using that prompt, I need to go into image to image. And I'm going to add the same prompt that I used to generate the image, which was no user, or NOUSR robot. And I'm going to make sure that my settings here are correct as well for my final output. I'm going to double the size of the resolution of this so that it fits the 1920 by 1080, but for now I'm just going to stick with that, just because it crashes my computer if I try to do anything more than that, because I don't have a fast enough GPU. So, and my GPU is pretty fast. So now let's grab the robot that I think I'm going to go with. So I'm going to go with this robot here. So this is the robot image that we're going to use as a image prompt. So it's another thing to remember is that once you've created your text to image and import, you have to bring it into image to image to do this animation. So bring it into image to image to start animating it. And when you first go down, you can see everything is pretty much set to normal. The seed set to -1, I'd change that to a set seed, so it's not randomly creating a seed every time it creates a frame of the animation. That's just something that I think is probably a good policy to go by. And then I'm going to drop these settings down a little bit. I'm going to drop the denoising strength down to something around the lines of 1.11. I can probably even drop it lower than that. Yeah, so I could probably, I'm going to drop it to 0.8 for now, and I'm going to keep the CFG scale, which is the guidance scale essentially, at about the same. And I can do just a test render, which will also tell me if, well, it's just a single frame, so it's probably not going to crash my computer, crash my stream. So I'm just bringing my stream up here so I can make sure that it's not crashing. It hasn't started trying to even process this image that it's trying to create yet. But when it does, you'll see it here in the command prompt. There it goes, starting now. Yeah, so it's generating, as you can see, pretty much the same image as the original, which is kind of what we want at this stage of the animation. All right, so but we're going to zoom in on the animation. Maybe we'll try and get it so it zooms in on this top robot head, or something like that, so it sort of like tilts up. We can't tilt up, so we'll just have to like track up essentially. But the important thing here is getting it animating. So that's just standard image to image generation, but this is the image that we created using that initial robot prompt. Now let's go down to the scripts. Now, if you've installed everything the same way as I sort of told you how to install it, where you copy those scripts into your script folder in your root folder for Stable Diffusion, it should come up here. So I'm just going to stick with the standard animator for now. You can see here you can add keyframes and prompts and different text prompts for every keyframe, for the keyframes that you set. So it could start off as a robot and it could turn into a beautiful landscape. That's how you control that here. But that, again, all we want at this stage is for it to zoom in nicely to our robot, and hopefully not change it too much, but it probably will change it a little bit. So just to make sure that it's going to be using the same prompt every time, I'm just going to copy that prompt into positive prompts here. And at the moment, it's not really going to be doing any zooming because it's set to a zoom factor of 1. So in order to make it zoom, I'd probably set that to 1.4. So that's going to increase the zoom speed and add a zoom to it. The total animation length is here under animation parameters, and you can see it's set to 10. So I'm going to change that to 15 so I get the minimum length that I want for a YouTube short. And the frame rate is set to 15, and I'm going to leave that for now because we're going to change that in After Effects after we've generated this animation. So don't worry about the frame rate. Okay, cool. What else? So again, I wanted to make it go up. So I should be able to change that here with the Y pixel shift. So if I change the Y pixel shift to say 100, we can do a test now and see if it's going in the right direction. Hopefully it's not going to be going and dropping down, because we want it to raise up. But we'll be able to see as soon as it starts trying to generate this. And when I click generate, there's still a chance that it's going to bottom out and freeze my recording. So again, I'm going to be testing that, but it won't change anything else. So you can see in the initial parameters, it's got a denoising strength here as well. And this denoising strength, that will counter, or that will take over from this denoising strength. It won't affect your CFG scale, but will affect your denoising strength. So I'm going to slide that down so it's also at about 0.8 at this stage. I'm trying to reduce as much fluttery, morphy kind ofness because I just want it to animate, do a transitional animation. Okay, so I think we're ready to click generate and see what happens. So let's do that. Let's click generate. Okay, so it's working and it's zooming. So you can see in our preview, it's slowly zooming in on our animation. It is slowly going up because I set that to 100 pixels. So it will track up 100 pixels. I'm not sure if 100 pixels in 15 seconds is going to be enough to do what I want, but it hasn't ruined my recording. I'm not getting any drop frames here, so that's a good sign. Yeah, it's going to take a little while to render this all off for us. I'm going to jump to Stable Diffusion so I can see it happening in real time. But yeah, it is creating a nice animation, but as you can see, it's a little less detailed than our initial image because it's having to draw in the details. It's having to create details on the fly using our denoising strength. So if I want it to create a little bit more detail, sometimes it pays to just push those denoising strengths up a little bit above 0.1. I've got it below 0.1. I've got 0.08, I believe. Yeah, I've got it set to 0.08. So above 1 is probably going to deform it a little bit more. At 0.08, it's really just trying to create the detail without being too creative when it creates the detail. But I mean, it's still doing what we want. It's still creating an animation for us. So yeah, 15 seconds. 15 seconds is an awful long time in animation, and it's also an awful long time when you're waiting for a progress bar to finish. So, yep, I'm going to time lapse this. So that took 11 minutes. It took 11 minutes to render that animation. Yeah, so let's jump into After Effects now. And I can show you what you need to do once you've generated your little animation sequence. So let's do that. Okay, so we're in After Effects. We're going to create a new composition. So I'm going to create a composition that has That's 25 frames per second, but I'm going to change that aspect ratio and make it 1080. It's 1080 by 1920. So it'll be a vertical framed animation. There we go. That's perfect for TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram stories. So now we're going to import our animation. By default, the animation is saved into your image to image outputs folder. So you go into your main folder for Stable Diffusion, in your root folder for Stable Diffusion is outputs, and in outputs is image to image images. And if you go into there, it creates a subfolder of your animation with your animations in it. So you'll be able to find a folder in there with your animation that's generated. Then you click on the first frame of your animation and make sure that ping sequence is selected and click import. Okay, so now I've imported my animation. I can see it there, and then I just literally just drag it here into my composition, and you can see that it's half the size of the composition because of the way we rendered it. Now I could upscale it using various AI upscalers, but for this purpose I'm just going to literally scale it up in After Effects, and you can see it's nicely cropped in for us because our animation was a little bit large compared to what we needed it to be. So yeah, so we're good to go. Don't think it's got resolution in here. Yeah, anyhow, doesn't matter. Oh, the other thing I need to remember to do, which I've forgotten to do here, is make sure that you right click onto your import and go to interpret footage, go to main and change the assumed frame rate for your animation to 15 frames per second, because that's what we rendered it at. Okay, so in comp 1 we have our animation set to 15 frames per second, and there you can see it does that lovely zoom. So if I press play now, you can see the zoom in action. So there's our zoom. Looks pretty good. Sort of zooms into the screen in 15 seconds. So that's cool. So if I check my composition settings, I've got it set to frames per second. So the frame rate's 25 frames per second. That's all good. The duration, sorry, you probably don't see this window, but I've got a little window that's come up for composition settings. The duration settings for my composition, we want it to be 15 seconds. So let's bring up our little calculator again. Just because it's easier. I've got a lot of information I need to pack into my brain. So it is 15 seconds in total for our animation at 25 frames per second. So it's 15 frames per second times 25. That gives us a total frame duration of 375 frames. So that's what we want for our final duration. At the moment, our final duration is set to 753 frames, because that's what it was set to probably in the last composition I made. We're going to change that to 375 frames. So it's only going to be the exact length of our content. And there you go. It's my math is right, and it finishes now. A final frame is exactly 375 frames. Perfect. Now, there's a couple other settings that we need to change just to make sure that our animation is nice and smooth. All right. This is something that people haven't really gone into much when they're doing AI generations for animations, but this will just make things perfect for you. One, we made sure to set our composition to 25 frames per second, but our initial animation is 15 frames per second. That's great. That means there's going to be some frame blending that happens, but in order to make that actually happen, we have to make sure that this tick box here is set. So, and double click on it. All right. So we're going to double click on it. So it's going to create our frame blending. It's right here underneath, next to effects. you can see the frame blending little icon there, and underneath that icon is a checkbox. You double click on it twice. So click on it once and it'll bring up frame blending. Click on it twice and it'll bring you into the setting that we want. Okay, so that's one way, and that will definitely make things a little bit smoother because it's drawing in those in-between frames. You can see it's starting to do it here. Okay, so if I press play now, you can see it's sort of warping a little bit as it tries to draw in those in-between frames. So that's all cool. But another thing we can do is actually go into our effects menu under time, and you'll see pixel motion blur. And if we drag that over the top of our animation as well, that also creates a form of frame blending. And in the effects controls, we're going to change shutter samples to 3. And we're going to leave all these other settings. Okay, so that's adding another level of frame blending in, aside from the native frame blending that After Effects is also doing. So if we press play, you can see it's sort of pre-rendering here, and it's looking pretty cool. It's creating this sort of blending in our frames. It's doing the zoom, but the zoom will be a little bit smoother as well, and it will eliminate most of that fluttering kind of effect that you get with a lot of these AI generated frames. So we've also reduced, you can see a little bit of fluttering happening at the top here. We've also reduced any fluttering as well by making sure that our denoise settings is set pretty low. So we had it set to 0.08, which means it's reading more of the image and not trying to create over the top of that image. If that makes sense. Hopefully I'm making sense, not running through this too quickly. A little bit tired today. I slept. There it is. So there's our perfect zoom. And it's tracking up a little bit, it's tracking up 100 pixels. We probably could have made that 200 pixels, but 100 pixels is great. Still hits that screen and zooms in to the robot. So that's going to be our short for YouTube Shorts, and that's also going to be, I'll stick that on Instagram, and I'll stick that on TikTok as well, so I can get some attention to my channel. Just get this information out a little bit better. I'm just going to save my composition for now. I forgot to save this project, so I'm going to save my project here. I know you can't see my submenus when I bring this up, but I don't like to use desktop capture. I like to use window capture, and that's the reason why I sometimes have issues with you not seeing what I'm demonstrating. So I'm going to go robot vertical, save that off. Okay, so while we're in this now, you've done your After Effects blend, you've compiled all those ping files into an actual video, but it still needs to be rendered, so let's render it now. So go into composition, go scroll down to add to render queue. Okay, and that brings up your comp. They'll bring your comp into the render output. Now I'm going to specify an output folder. So I click on output 2 and specify an output folder. I'm going to call this Robo-Vert. And I'm going to render it as a QuickTime movie, I think. But I'm going to make sure that the output module is not changing anything. So nothing's changing here. The resize isn't changing. So hopefully it's not going to deform my animation and try and create a horizontal animation from a vertical animation. It says it's rendering at 1820 by 1920, which is good. What you don't want is for it to be 1920 by 1080. You want the height to be 1920 and the width to be 1080. So it's doing it all there. We don't need to click resize. It's grayed out at the moment, but it's going to render everything correctly. At least I can see that in my output modules. Okay, then I push render, and there it goes, and it's rendering my animation nice and quick. So, and there it is. So it's all finished for me now. It's all rocking and rolling. And that's how it's done. Yeah. Cool. All right. That is how it is done. So let's just jump into just chatting here for a second. Okay, cool. So that's how you animate in Stable Diffusion. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't make sense, I highly recommend you go and check out the channel that I found this information from, which it's temporarily gone out of my head. If I just bring it up here, Drive, it'll tell me. Animating Stable Diffusion. Okay, if you go and check out Common Sense Made Simple, he is the person who posted the video where I got the animation scripts from. And if that doesn't make, if my tutorial doesn't make sense, and you can't get any sense out of his tutorial with some of these other factors, go into Aitrepreneur or Nerdy Robot. They have great tutorials on how to use Stable Diffusion. Their tutorials came out before mine. I'm learning everything from them. So yeah, that's how we cross-pollinate information these days. Cool. All right, so I'll just resize it so you can see it properly. So there it is. There is our final little animation. That's cool. There it is. There it is right there. Looping away. Happy as happy. So it's really simple. I mean, we created that. This whole lesson was like an hour, but you could it took 11 minutes to render it out, and took less than that, just a couple of minutes to compile it and get rid of any flutteriness and sort of smooth off that animation in After Effects by using those tools that I showed you. And yeah, it's created a nice smooth zoom, nice little visual graphic there that will hopefully create a little bit of visual interest that will get people interested in watching my video. How about that? That was pretty sweet, pretty simple. Have a play. Post your results. Post them into your groups. Let's see people apply this technology. Let's see how people do. I want to see robots generated and zooms. I want to see, I started in traditional line animation. I started before just doing cell animation and doing in-camera animations with plasticine. And then I went on to teach CGI animation for a while there, and all of this new technology that you have available was not available to me. There weren't even personal computers available when I was a teenager. We had Commodore 64s and VIC-20s. You have access to all of this high-end technology, and a lot of you have parents that have enough money to buy you that sort of stuff, and I didn't. My parents were struggling with poverty, so they could not buy us the best of everything. So if you have the advantage of having a parent that can buy you a really good gaming computer, just to keep you happy, and they've done that for you, use that same game computer and create these animations. It's good use of your time. You'll learn something new, and you might actually have a craft that you can take out into the workforce, if there is even a workforce in the next 10 to 20 years. All right. Thank you for watching. As always, you don't have to you don't have to subscribe to my channel. I do not care about my YouTube channel. If you find this video and you watch it, that's fantastic. That's really good for you because you learn information. For me, it means nothing. Maybe I get a little bit of joy about seeing some likes and seeing some views on my channel. It maybe gives me a little bit of an endorphin rush to see that happening. But at the end of the day, all I'm really interested in is that the information gets out, that people learn, that we can evolve together as a race, as a species, and that we don't end up waking up in 100 years' time and everybody's trying to grow crops using Powerade. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take it easy, and I will see you sometime in the future.